The Oceanview Resort ballroom gleamed with white roses and crystal chandeliers for my cousin Emma's wedding. 500 guests filled round tables draped in silk, each setting worth more than my monthly rent, or so the family thought. I stood at the entrance in my navy dress, clutching the carefully chosen gift I'd spent weeks selecting. Around me, relatives in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos air-kissed and compared jewelry. "Sarah." Aunt Karen's voice cut through the cocktail chatter. She approached in a beaded Chanel number, her smile sharp as her manicured nails. "There you are, dear. We have your seat ready." She gestured toward the far corner where a small round table sat isolated from the main reception area. 3 teenagers scrolled on phones while a 10-year-old kicked his legs under the tablecloth. "The children's table?" I asked. "Well, it made sense," Karen said with practiced sympathy. "You're not married, no +1. The kids could use some adult supervision." Her eyes swept my off-the-rack dress dismissively. "Besides, you'll be more comfortable there." The real reason hung unspoken between us. At 27 I was the family disappointment. No husband, no impressive career title they could brag about, no trust fund or inheritance. Just Sarah who worked with computers and lived alone in a studio apartment. Emma floated past in her $15,000 gown, stopping to accept congratulations from Uncle Richard's table, the prestigious spot near the bridal party where successful relatives sat. Lawyers, doctors, investment bankers. People who mattered. "Sarah works in tech," I'd overheard Mom explaining to relatives who'd forgotten I existed. "Something with apps, I think." Still figuring herself out. I made my way to table 9, squeezing between the teenagers' chairs. 16-year-old Josh looked up from his phone. "Hey, Aunt Sarah. Mom said you could help me with my computer science homework later." "Sure thing." Karen's daughter Melissa, 14 and already modeling her mother's disdain, glanced at my dress. "Did you get that at Target?" "Actually, yes." She smirked and returned to her Instagram feed, probably posting stories about how boring this wedding was. The cocktail hour flowed around us. I watched my family network at their assigned tables. Strategic seating that reflected social hierarchies I'd never cracked. Cousin David the surgeon sat with the bride's family. Uncle Tom the hedge fund manager commanded a premium table. Even my brother Jake, fresh out of law school, earned a spot with the young professionals. Meanwhile, I supervised children and pretended my phone wasn't buzzing with increasingly urgent notifications. "Ladies and gentlemen," the wedding coordinator announced, "please take your seats for dinner." The salad course arrived as I helped 10-year-old Connor cut his chicken. Around us, adult conversations flowed about stock portfolios, European vacations, and private school admissions. The children's table discussed video games and TikTok trends. "Sarah, still doing the computer thing?" Uncle Richard called from table 3, his voice carrying across the room. "When are you going to get a real job?" Polite laughter rippled through nearby tables. I forced a smile and waved. My phone vibrated again. Then again. Something big was happening, but I couldn't check it while playing babysitter to my teenage cousins. "What kind of apps do you make?" Josh asked, genuinely curious. "I don't make apps," I said quietly. "I work on cloud infrastructure. Data processing systems." "That sounds complicated." "It is." Melissa rolled her eyes. "Sounds boring. I'm going to be an influencer. Way more exciting than whatever you do." The main course arrived as Emma and her new husband made their rounds, accepting congratulations at each table. When they reached us, Emma's smile was practiced perfection. "Sarah, so glad you could make it. Sorry about the seating, we ran out of room at the adult tables." "It's fine. The kids are great company." "I'm sure they are." Her tone suggested otherwise. "Still doing the tech startup thing?" "Something like that." "Well, keep trying. I'm sure something will work out eventually." She patted my shoulder like I was applying for an entry-level position instead of, well, they had no idea what I actually did. As Emma moved on, I caught fragments of conversation from nearby tables. Dad explaining to his golf buddies that I was still finding my way. Mom apologizing to her book club for my absence from family photos because I wasn't photogenic in that dress. My phone buzzed more insistently. The notifications were piling up, but I couldn't exactly check market alerts while cutting a child's vegetables. "The stock market's going crazy today," Uncle Tom announced from his table, loud enough for half the room to hear. Biggest IPO in tech history. Some company called NexusFlow just went public. $50 billion valuation on day one. My blood froze. Never heard of them, someone replied. What do they do? Cloud computing, I think. Data infrastructure. Boring stuff, but apparently revolutionary. Tom's voice carried the authority of someone who managed other people's money. Whoever founded that company just became one of the richest people in America. Josh looked up from his phone. NexusFlow. My computer science teacher mentioned them. They process like half the internet's data or something. Probably exaggerating, Melissa said dismissively. Teachers don't know about real business. But Josh was already Googling. No, look. It says here they handle data processing for Netflix, Amazon, Google. Their founder is some Stanford dropout named. He squinted at his screen. Sarah Chin. The fork slipped from my hand. Sarah Chin, Connor repeated. Same name as you, Aunt Sarah. Weird coincidence. Several heads turned our way. Uncle Richard chuckled from his prestigious table. What are the odds? Our Sarah sharing a name with a tech billionaire. Must be dozens of Sarah Chens in Silicon Valley, Aunt Karen added with practiced superiority. Our Sarah wishes she could be that successful. The room's attention briefly focused on our corner table before returning to more important conversations. The failure relative and her amusing coincidence. That's when the ballroom's mounted television screens, which had been showing the wedding slideshow, suddenly switched to breaking news. Breaking. Biggest tech IPO in history creates youngest female billionaire. My professional headshot filled every screen in the room. The champagne glasses stopped halfway to lips. Conversations died mid-sentence. 500 guests stared at the screens showing my face above a chiron that read, Sarah Chin NexusFlow Sue, net worth $12.7 billion. Uncle Tom's wine glass shattered against the marble floor. That's. Someone whispered. That's our Sarah. The news anchor's voice filled the sudden silence. NexusFlow Technologies, founded 3 years ago by then 24-year-old Sarah Chin, went public today with the largest IPO in tech history. The company's revolutionary cloud infrastructure processes data for major tech giants and has been valued at over $50 billion. Josh stared at me, then at the screen, then back at me. Aunt Sarah? Is that really you? I nodded slowly. Trading was temporarily halted due to unprecedented demand, the anchor continued. Chin, who famously avoided publicity while building her company, is now worth an estimated $12.7 billion, making her the youngest self-made female billionaire in American history. Melissa's phone slipped from her hands. You're a billionaire? Apparently. The footage cut to my rare public appearances. Accepting an innovation award at Stanford, speaking at a cloud computing conference, the press conference where I'd announced our breakthrough in real-time data processing. Holy shit, Josh breathed, then clapped his hand over his mouth. Sorry. I mean, you're actually famous. Uncle Richard stood up slowly from table 3, his face pale. Sarah? Is this real? The technology behind NexusFlow revolutionized how internet data moves globally, the TV explained. Every time you stream a video, send a photo, or access a website, there's a good chance Chen's systems are processing that data. Aunt Karen's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her shock. But you said you worked with computers. You never said you owned a company. You never asked what I actually did, I replied. You just assumed it wasn't important. The ballroom buzzed with frantic whispers. Phones appeared everywhere as guests Googled my name, finding years of tech industry coverage they'd never bothered to read. Forbes estimates Chen's personal stake in NexusFlow at approximately $12.7 billion, the anchor continued. The company's client list includes Netflix, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. Dad approached our table cautiously, like he was approaching a wild animal. Sarah, honey, why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That my computer work was actually valuable. Emma and her new husband hurried over, her wedding dress rustling. Sarah, I had no idea. You should have said something. Said what? That my startup dreams weren't failures. The weight of years pressed down on us. Every family gathering where they dismissed my work. Every suggestion I get a real job. Every time they'd position me as the family disappointment while celebrating mediocre achievements from others. The IPO broke multiple records today, the news continued. Nexus Flow's technology is considered essential infrastructure for the modern internet. Mom appeared at my shoulder, her voice shaking. $12 billion? Apparently. But you drive a Honda. You live in a studio apartment. I like my Honda. And I've been too busy building the company to house hunt. Uncle Tom, the hedge fund manager, pushed through the crowd. Sarah, I manage investment portfolios. I could help you with. I have financial advisors, thanks. But family should. Family. I looked around at the faces surrounding me. When did any of you treat me like family worth listening to? The silence stretched across the ballroom. Even the wedding photographer had stopped shooting, too stunned to continue. Josh pulled up more articles on his phone. It says here you donated $500 million to computer science education last year. Education matters. And another $1 billion to climate change research. Climate change is important. Melissa stared at her phone screen. There's a whole Wikipedia page about you. You've been on magazine covers. A few. Time magazine named you one of the most influential people under 30. That was nice of them. The bride's father, who'd spent dinner discussing his successful real estate investments, approached hesitantly. Sarah, congratulations. This is incredible news. Thank you. Perhaps we should talk. I have some investment opportunities. I'm good, thanks. Emma looked frantically between her wedding photographer and me. Should we take some photos? For the family album. I glanced at the children's table where I'd been seated, then at the prestigious tables where I'd never been invited to sit. I don't think I'm dressed appropriately for your wedding photos, I said. This is a Target dress after all. Emma's face went red. Sarah, I didn't mean. It's fine. You seated me exactly where you thought I belonged. Karen stepped forward, her voice desperate. Sarah, we had no idea you were so successful. If you'd known I was rich, you would have treated me differently. That's exactly the problem. Dad's voice cracked. We're proud of you. We've always been proud. Have you? Because I've spent years listening to you apologize for my choices to your friends. The news continued playing on every screen. Footage of my company's headquarters, interviews with clients praising our technology, stock market analysis showing the IPO's historic performance. Nexus Flow employs over 3,000 people globally, the anchor noted. Chin is known for her employee-first policies and environmental initiatives. 3,000 people work for you? Connor asked in amazement. Smart people doing important work. Uncle Richard cleared his throat. Sarah, about earlier when I said you needed a real job. You meant it, I finished. You all meant every dismissive comment, every suggestion I be more realistic, every time you've treated my work like a hobby. The wedding coordinator whispered urgently in Emma's ear, probably asking whether to continue the reception or deal with the media storm brewing outside. The thing about revolutionary technology, I said, standing up from the children's table, is that most people can't recognize it until someone else validates its worth. You see servers and data processing as boring because you don't understand how the digital world actually works. I looked around at my family, people who'd shared my DNA but never really known me. I've spent 3 years building something that powers half the internet. My technology makes your Instagram posts load instantly, lets you stream movies without buffering, enables video calls with grandchildren. But because it's invisible, you assumed it wasn't real. Mom reached out tentatively. Sarah, we want to understand. Help us understand. I tried for years. Every time I explained my work, you glazed over or changed the subject. You decided it wasn't worth your attention. The ballroom remained frozen in surreal silence. 500 wedding guests watching a family reckoning unfold in real time. Josh looked up from his phone. Aunt Sarah? Can I still ask you about my computer science homework? I smiled for the first time that evening. Of course. That's actually important. What happens now? Emma asked quietly. With us, I mean. I looked at the children's table where I'd spent the evening, then at the head table where I'd never been invited to sit. I don't know, I said honestly. But I should probably head home. Early morning tomorrow. Home to your studio apartment? Melissa asked. Actually, I close on a house next week. Nothing too flashy. Just 40 acres in Marin County with a view of the bay. Karen's perfectly composed facade finally cracked. 40 acres? I like privacy for coding. As I walked toward the exit, the conversation started up again. Urgent whispers about how to handle having a billionaire in the family they'd systematically dismissed. My phone buzzed with a text from my assistant. Media requests flooding in. How do you want to handle? I smiled, pushing through the resort's gold-plated doors into the Pacific evening air. Same as always, I texted back. Let the work speak for itself. Behind me, I could hear the wedding coordinator trying to restore order to a reception that had become something else entirely. The children's table had just become the most important seat in the room. Too bad it was empty now.